CDC recommends you wear a mask when you're in public.
Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about becoming a Stage 1 athlete. But first I want to explain why it's important that you become, at the bare minimum, a Stage 1 athlete. In the prepper community, we have generally agreed on boxes that need to be checked off if we're going to be truly prepared for any type of disaster scenario. And in my opinion, the best way to approach this sort of thing is prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Because if you're prepared for the worst, then anything less than the worst is not going to be that big a deal. We don't approach our preparedness with an attitude of we're going to only prepare for a 3-day loss of electricity, or we're going to only prepare for a week of lack of law and order in our city. We think long-term and worst-case scenario every single time because it allows us to be prepared for essentially anything. It's the same with law enforcement, firefighters, and emergency medical services. They train with a worst-case scenario in mind because anything smaller than that is going to be a walk in the park. So we go through and check off all these boxes and we feel prepared. And very often, this is simply a checklist of things that have been purchased. But not a lot of people put time and effort into what I refer to as prerequisites to survival. If you don't have a certain level of competence in these prerequisites to survival, you're not going to be alive long enough to use all the cool guns and gear and food storage that you bought. There are several prerequisites that need to be taken care of, but in this video I'm going to be talking about just your physical fitness. Because if we're talking about a situation where there's been a legitimate loss of law and order or infrastructure, all these tasks now fall to you and your community, and I think the expectation that the average prepper has about how physically challenging it's going to be is somewhat unrealistic. And even in the prepper community where we view ourselves as very realistic about the potential bad things that can happen in the future, there seems to be a bit of a normalcy bias. And people just aren't that motivated to get up off the couch. They just don't really see the need for them to go out and start training like athletes. I think this is in large part due to the fact that we just are so comfortable physically and we have everything that we could possibly need, and so we don't need to physically strain ourselves. Even the most physically demanding jobs that 20 years ago would have been extremely hard are becoming more and more automated. So the need for us to be physically and mentally resilient and capable in that capacity has really gone down. That's where the Stage 1 physical preparedness athlete standard comes in. Some of you will look at this workout and think that it's impossible. Some of you might look at this workout and think you could maybe do that, and some of you might look at this and think that it's a breeze. Regardless of how you feel about this workout, it's okay because this workout's purpose is to be a gauge of progress for us. If you look at this workout and know for a fact that you cannot possibly do it, that's okay. All that means is that we have a goal to work towards and we've got a lot of work to do. If you're semi-confident that you could complete this workout but just not under the assigned time cap, that's okay too. That means that we've got a base of fitness that we can work with, but we still have a goal to work towards. If you're a more advanced athlete and you think this workout will be easy for you, you should still do it to make sure that you can make it under the allotted amount of time, simply because these exercises separate of each other, running, squats, burpees, sit-ups, they're relatively easy, but when you put them all together back to back with limited rest, they become surprisingly difficult. So regardless of what level athlete you are, whether you're a little bit more advanced or you are still sitting on the couch eating Doritos while you're watching this, that's okay. This can either act as a gauge and a standard, or it can be a goal that you can work towards in the future. In later videos, we're going to be talking about a lot of training principles that govern how we perform athletically and how we can best prepare for any number of scenarios that we might encounter in a disaster situation. However, this is a very good bare minimum standard of fitness that we can establish so that we know that you can at least move your body through space and that you have the strength and endurance to do so. So before we start worrying about getting in fights and rucking 20 miles with your 50-pound pack or running 100 yards with your rifle and gear on, we need to first establish a baseline of fitness and see exactly where you're at. Because in my years of coaching, it's very common for me to encounter people who are overly pessimistic about their physical capabilities, or people who are overly optimistic and unrealistic about their physical capabilities. So the important thing is we get moving and we start working towards this stage 1 standard. And for those of you who are more advanced, there will be additional standards that will be much more physically demanding, but we'll cover those in other videos. As you either work towards becoming a stage 1 athlete or you're just checking to make sure you're already a stage 1 athlete, I want you to keep 3 things in mind. A lot of people waste time worrying about whether they should do yoga or lift weights or run or do this and that and the other, and there's lots of ways for us to get lost when it comes to wondering how we should start exercising and dieting and becoming more physically self-reliant. The first and most important thing is just that you start. Whether you've never exercised in your life or you used to be a college athlete but maybe haven't trained seriously in a while, it's important that you start. Just do something. Even the most suboptimal training and the most suboptimal plan done consistently over a long period of time is infinitely better than not doing anything at all. So the first thing is just to start. The second most important factor is consistency. Most people can train hard and do really good for a couple of weeks, and most people do, but the problem that they run into is that they do that for a couple of weeks and then they drop off and don't do anything for 6 months. Progress comes from consistency over months and years, so consistency has to be there. The third thing is sustainability. We need to train hard enough to make progress, but not so hard that our bodies can't recover. If you train too hard for too long over a certain period of time, the odds of you getting an injury go up and up and up. And that's the problem that a lot of people have. They go for a week or two, but then they have to stop because of knee pain or back pain or shoulder pain. So you have to find that balance between training hard but also being able to recover. So you've probably got a lot of questions at this point. You're wondering about your individual circumstance. You're wondering how to get started. This Saturday at 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, I'm going to be doing a live Q&A here on this YouTube channel. I'm going to be getting into very specific training ideas. I'm going to talk to you guys about how you can begin to work towards becoming a stage 1 athlete, or if you're already close to the stage 1 athlete standard, I'm going to talk about how you can surpass the standard. It's going to be a question and answer format, so while we talk about being a stage 1 athlete, we're also going to talk about whatever questions you guys have and how you guys can optimize your training, because like I've said in previous videos, how you guys train is going to be very, very based on your specific needs, and because everybody's situation and current fitness level is so different, it's hard to get those needs addressed in these general idea videos. So this Saturday, 9 o'clock, I hope you guys can tune in and we can get your questions answered. We can talk about what you guys need to specifically do so that you can start working towards the stage 1 athlete standard and become more physically self-reliant. Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you Saturday at 9 for the Q&A.